right. So a sign hangs on the wall of my office right now, and it hung on the wall of my office before that one, and before that one, and before that one. And I meant to hang it downstairs, but I forgot. Anyway, this is how it goes. It's by Aya Ihame. You gotta resurrect the deep pain within you and give it a place to live that's not within your body. Let it live in art. Let it live in music. Let it live in writing. Let it be devoured by building brighter connections. Your body is not a coffin for pain to be buried in. Put it somewhere else. That's it. That is the very essence of the healing power of creative expression. So healing is the process and work of becoming whole or finding wholeness, restoring health and well-being. This happens on so many levels: physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, ancestral, energetic, psychological, all at once, all through our lives. The need for healing is present. We're all going through something, or went through something, or may someday go through something, or someone near us that we love is going through something, or the world and the planet is going through something. So healing is always needing our attention. It's always present and possible. Creative expression is using certain outward creative activities: drawing, sculpture, painting, photography, sewing, knitting, doodling, gardening, word, poetry, stories, song, piano, movement, dance, nature installation, ritual. It goes on and on and on. Creative expression is using those kind of things to get at or represent something that is going on within us or around us. Creativity is the use of imagination or ideas to bring something new into existence. It's a complex process that we instinctively know how to do. We're wired for it as humans. The healing power of creativity and creative expression is for and accessible to all of us. We've already done so much of it here in our time together. We're made for it. There are a lot of looming challenges that we face as human beings on this planet, individually and collectively, and creativity can be a source of healing for it all. This is a poem, as an example, that I wrote after a particularly challenging shift at the Independence House shelter. I was really out of sorts when I left at the end of this day. I was new, I was on the hotline, and I was getting a lot of calls that were people in crisis. There was stuff happening in the shelter. There was just a lot going around, and it was clanking around in my body and in my mind. I felt ill. So I decided to turn to my creative practice, get out some pen and paper, and just write it out. And here's what happened. Half of every moment, a woman is wailing. A woman is locked in the bathroom, a fist banging on the other side of the door, wondering how the hell she got here. Half of every moment, a woman is chain-smoking cigarettes while watering the garden called Don't Give Up. Half of every moment, there is a ripe silence, a raw pleading, tears perched at the edge of eyes, trying to say what there are no words for. Half of every moment, there is chaos. There is mutiny. There is a woman drowning in something invisible and another woman running around looking for the lifesaver that can only be herself. Half of every moment, a peaceful breeze blows through, but depending on who is yelling, who's kicking down the door, who's sweeping herself off the floor, it might be missed. Half of every moment, it's growls and teeth and snarls and claws. It's a sharp thing tapping on the breastbone saying, please help me, but not saying it like that. Half of every moment, the hotline is ringing and the alarm is going off, and it's 85 degrees in the office, and it's either sweat or tears that are making a river of me. And half of every moment, I'm checking my stance and digging my wits out of my back pocket and building a privet fence around my own sweetheart and steadying myself into a place called present, trying to conjure up a thing called safety. A thing called safety that I am not so sure exists. So journaling and writing that poem allowed me to get to the heart of what was going on within me and around me that day. It allowed me to take the pain of that day and put it on the paper, so I no longer carry that within me. My poem holds it for me. So I write poetry and I create art and I garden and I dance and I shake it out. It being big feelings, pain, stress, traumatic stress, secondary vicarious stress. All of us have some version of it. The healing power of creative expression can help us move it out. So I want to just take a quiet moment with you and just ask you to consider what within you could use some creative expression today. Is there anything that you're suffering with? Anything that hurts to hold? Could you draw it, dance it, express it, give it a voice? Let's just sit with that for 30 seconds. And just breathe in and out as you consider. I hope you will find ways to creatively express it soon. This is a poem by Victoria Erickson, another new and favorite poet of mine. Guide your heart to your throat and open. Empty your ghosts. Let the words catch air and set fire to the horizon. Run toward it. Run toward the warmth of it. We must learn to be braver. So the kind of art and creative expression that I'm talking about, I just need to be clear about this. I hope that I am, is not about making good art, right? Though we might like what we make. And there's plenty of really valid reasons to make good art. It's beautiful. It can be healing in its own thing. But this is different. Using creative expression for healing is different. It's about having some simple, accessible, cheap materials at the ready. Pen, paper, sticks, paint, crayons, leaves, yarn, voice, body. And going within and quieting down the inner judge or critic and setting aside any ideas of what we want to create. And opening up instead and allowing the creative force to move through us. And then accepting and say thank you for whatever comes. It's a process, not product-centered art. It's a different thing altogether. So here's the invitation of using creative expression for healing. Can you allow the creative force of the universe to move to you and flow through you? And can you be receptive to the healing power of that process? And if not, what's standing in the way? Because so much stands in the way. So some of the stuff, what is standing in the way? Partly it's this nonsense that only some of us are artists or creative. If we're human, we're creative. Partly it's the monetizing of art making. Often it's the voices we heard from people in our lives along the way saying awful things like, you don't have a creative bone in your body. That's terrible. I would choose something else, right? You know, those kind of things that we can say and hear, and they can just shut the flow down. All creators have to find a way to dialogue with that. And here's one example of how the dialogue can go. The inner judge. Don't bother, you aren't creative. This is so bad. Who do you think you are? Me. Not today. And move on. Hear that voice for what it is. Fear. Find the courage to face it and move on. And if he keeps talking, just turn the music up. Yeah. Okay, life is amazing. L.R. Noss says, life is amazing, and then it's awful, and then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful, it's ordinary and mundane and routine. So breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, and relax and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living, heartbreaking, soul healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful. L.R. Noss. Because life is all that, we can not only hold on and relax and exhale, we can use art and creative expression as a healing tool. So creative expression has the power to improve well-being by helping us understand ourselves and shift our perspectives. Physiologically, making art has powerful effects on our bodies. It can reduce blood pressure, bolster our immune system, improve brain cognition, fight inflammation. Creative expression helps prevent the onset of mental illness and age-related physical decline. Creative expression promotes and enhances physical, emotional, mental health. It helps decrease symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress, while increasing self-awareness, compassion, and self-esteem. This is powerful stuff, really. The research is there. The data has been collected. We can use it. It's for all of us. Alice Walker questions, if art doesn't make us better, then what on earth is it for? And I think Alice Walker by us means humanity. If it doesn't make us better, what on earth is it for? Having a daily creative practice, being creative in smaller ways regularly, can help us to keep the channel open and then access that source of healing and power for the larger issues and challenges that we face in the world. As we get more comfortable with using art for healing individually, I think we're more apt to remember to access it in the face of our collective struggles and challenges, the wounds and the grief and the pain and the suffering in our families and places of work and communities and the planet. Life can be so full, and then sometimes it can be so empty. And each of us have pain and suffering and joy and vision. Creativity can be a loyal companion along our journeys. Our creative practices become sanctuaries for each of us. So before we close, we're heading towards the closing of this service. I want to extend an invitation for you all to join me in the Fleck Room for coffee hour and for the Courage to Create art show reception. This art show came about from my work at the Independence House, where I learned so many important things and lessons from the people that I met and served. Some of what I learned is that trauma shapes us. More specifically, unaddressed, unacknowledged, unrecognized, unhealed trauma shapes us. And I also learned that fortunately, healing shapes us too. This art show is a glimpse into the creative practices of 5 artists who we all met at the Independence House. There was a workshop, and there were women making art together, and it was healing, and then there was an idea for an art show, and 8 months later, here we are. It takes courage to create anything at all, and I'm so grateful to these 5 artists for saying yes to sharing their work, because it's personal. And to the UUMH, thank you so much for being open to hosting our collaborative show. And to all of you for showing up today and supporting this kind of healing process. So I invite you to come down afterwards, spend some time, read the art statements, check it out. There's a book there for thoughts and reflections. If some of our artists were sick, and couldn't come today, so if anything you could write, I'll be sure to share it with all. These artists' creative processes remind us that we are more than the broken parts. We meaning all of us. We are more than the broken parts. We are more than the worst thing that's happened to us. We are more than the biggest mistake we ever made. We are more than the wound. We are the wild. We are the brave. We belong to ourselves, to one another, and to the world. We are, all of us, miraculous creators of our own lives. Let's sing. Do you know what the hymn number is, Dolly?
Yes, it's 1008, and it's in the blue hymnal. It's not in the hardcover.
Thank you. 2008. Oh, yes, and you can rise as you're able and willing.
And the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. Then our heart is in a holy place. One more time.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and
Amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place.
Please be seated.